Howdy guys, Alex with San Antonio Vapor Blasting. We're circling back to an old project. I say old, it's been a couple months. However, there was some machine work that needed to be done to these Porsche 914 engine cases, as well as the front fan. And over here, we actually substituted the magnesium fan shroud. I'm gonna go out of the picture and go bring it over here. This is the 2-part magnesium fan shroud. You can tell this guy needs a lot of work. We're gonna get to that. So that fan shroud specifically needs to be hit with aluminum oxide first, then it needs to be hit with Glass Bead per the customer's request. He was going back and forth about using some sort of coating on the magnesium, whether it's gonna be a Cerakote or whether it's gonna be powder coat. So we're gonna check back in once we get it blasted with aluminum oxide, see what he wants to do. Aluminum oxide is a preferred abrasive to use when you wanna leave the surface of the part a little rougher, and that gives better mechanical adhesion to the paint and whatever coating you're going to use, whether it's paint, Cerakote, powder coat, you name it. So all these parts are what we're going to focus on today. These guys are going to get hit with Glass Bead. They've already been hit with aluminum oxide in the tank, stripped them down. They had this really nasty silver engine paint on there that was baked on, very hard to get off, even with aluminum oxide. If you haven't watched the first video, I would definitely watch it. Shows the entire process, what we're looking at. This customer went above and beyond. Once he finished machining these, he machined additional, these are Durlin caps, because he doesn't want me to hit this face, which, you know, I look at that and say, hey, not a problem, but some customers want to go above and beyond, and I can't fault the man. He's doing everything he can and needs to do to make sure that it stays nice and clean and nothing touches that surface. So what I'm actually gonna do is put masking tape over the top, put these back down right over the top of it so they help weigh the edges of the tape down. This fan itself has been hit with aluminum oxide. You can see right here on the edges of the lip where that was what it originally looked like. This part is actually steel, so you can see where we weren't able to get it because it was touching this end. This part has already been harmonically balanced. You can see here by the brass weight, which makes vapor blasting a really good solution to cleaning this part, since it's not going to remove material, even on soft materials like the brass. The reason I can pick it up and turn it is because we actually marked it. He's got a stamp right here on that part, and a stamp right here, where they're going to line back up once we're done blasting them, which is a good catch, because I'll definitely turn the part around and I won't know exactly how it was oriented. That's a good way to mark your parts specifically if you're going to get them blasted, and you can't, you guys understand you can't use something like a permanent marker because that will be removed from it. But less talk, more action, nothing to it but to do it. So let's get to work and let's get to the tank. First part going in the tank is going to be this VW fan. I'm going to flip it over and make sure we get the underside very well. Everything's going to be using a number 12 Glass Bead. So in the tank, and you'll see the big difference. This has been done with aluminum oxide before. It's got a nice satin color to it. This part is steel, this part is cast aluminum, and you can see where it's been touched with greasy hands and all that, passing the part back and forth. And you'll see the finished look of it's going to be a lot shinier than what you see here. So I'm really excited to see that. All right, that looks pretty killer. So I'm very happy with how that looks. Understanding that it is a vintage part, so there's going to be corrosion, there's going to be divots in the casting. These are parts that are not perfect, and they weren't perfect from the factory. However, we do the best we can to make them look even better than they looked coming out of the factory. So I see right here on this edge, I can do a little bit better as far as smoothing out the shine. It might be a little hard to tell on the camera, but in this area from when I was blasting that hole, I created a little spot around it. So I want to make sure that I even all that out. I'm gonna go ahead and do it all the way around, make sure that all the area around the hole is good. However, I'm gonna set this guy to the side first off, and I'm gonna go back to this part. If you remember, this is the shade of gray that they were going in the tank. Little switch right here. And that's the shade and the shine that you get glass bead versus aluminum oxide. Yes, this is aluminum, yes, this is steel. However, you get to see the difference in what the actual material looks like once it's been glass bead vapor blasted. Guys, like always, new gloves every single time I touch the part coming out of here, because I don't want to get any of this abrasive from my hands, any grease or oils, miscellaneous stuff on the part once it's fully cleaned. So you can see that the really hard corroded parts around each of the screw holes, bolt holes, has been done. Little exception right there, I'll get back to that. And the part as a whole is pretty good, a little bit more in this area. We don't want to overdo it, because like I said, this part's been balanced already, but we're going to make sure that we do a very thorough and good job. But just looking over the part on a high level, it's looking good already. Rinse this guy out first, then hit him with alcohol, dry him out as quick as we can. Next part, going in, you can see here that I put tape over the machine face, plus the customer supplied Derlin plugs. We're gonna hit this guy with glass bead, try to shine it up the best we can, keeping in mind areas that are gonna be seen, as opposed to areas that aren't gonna be seen. We're not gonna go in the internals, just the externals. We're gonna stay away from all these races, these bearings. Just going for a good looking part at this point. Actually, before I forget, I needed to even out the surface of this part, wash it, dry it. So we're gonna set him aside in the tank. This will take about 30 seconds to a minute, so that won't do any harm sitting there, getting passively blasted by spray. Looking really good, nice and even. Now to the two-stage wash. Because I know that this part has steel on it, whether there's studs or bolts in there, what I'm going to do is up the percentage of corrosion inhibitor that I'm using to help prevent flash rusting. So that's a lot more than I would normally use. It already has some in the tank that gets diluted the more rinsing you do. So I'm definitely going overboard on it, but it'll help in the final finishing. All right guys, first one is done. You can see in Glass Bead, super shiny. We stayed away from the oil galleries, finished holes, areas that are gonna be or have been machined. So I took off all the tape around the edges here, took out the plugs, that's done. I taped these holes up just to give extra protection under these Derlin plugs. Make sure that no media, blasting abrasive gets a direct hit against that machine surface. So you guys can tell from the Glass Bead, which is up top, from the aluminum oxide, there's a huge difference in surface finish. You can really start to tell the difference. Louvers on aluminum oxide. Louvers on aluminum oxide. So huge difference in the shine. The level of high gloss, if you will, versus what's a much more satin color. So now we're gonna go into the tank with the second half of the engine case and make it look like that one. Engine case number 2 is going in the tank.